Okay, we're back, and today we're going to be seeing what would happen if you were trapped as a ghost. Da 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 da. Ooh. Yeah, so what would happen if you were trapped as a ghost? Quite an interesting thing. So let's see how this turns out. Before we begin, subscribe and let's begin. Okay, so 1 hour before it, this is just the backstory for fun. You are late for school, okay? 5 seconds before, you are hit by a truck. And starting, everything goes black. 30 seconds later, you wake up in bed. And then you think it's a bad dream. Then you want to tell your mom about your dream. Then 1 minute later, you do that. 2 minutes later, you are wearing black. 3 minutes later, you're like, what's wrong? Wait 1 minute. Then you tap your mom's back after 5 minutes. But 6 minutes later, your hand goes through your mom. 7 minutes later, you panic. You have and then 10 minutes later, you have no reflection. Then 15 minutes later, you realize you must be a ghost. Then 20 minutes later, you experiment with your powers. 25 minutes later, you can move objects if you focus. After 30 minutes, you try to have some fun. Then 45 minutes later, you fly to school. 1 hour later, you have a sad assembly talk. Then 4 hours later, you prank your head teacher. 1.5 hours later, your room is full of giggles, like everybody's laughing because of the teacher. You prank your teacher. So 1.5 hours, everybody's laughing. Okay. Then 2 hours later, you are like, where are my friends? Then 3 hours later, you realize that they are all very sad. 8 hours later, you follow their lives. 1 day later, you stalk your crush, geez. You even went to your crush's house to watch her sleep. Kind of creepy. 3 days later, you attend your own funeral. Then 5 days later, you are bored and lonely. Then 6 days later, you think of ways to communicate. 1 week later, haunt the truck driver that killed you. 1.2 weeks. Why do I keep saying years? Years is just like so common. 1.2 weeks later, you search for a psychic. 1.4 weeks later, turns out they were fake. 1.6 weeks later, the news channel. You go to the CNN office to display a message asking for help. 1.8 weeks later, a live TV message. You try and communicate with your family and friends via the news. 2 weeks later, your family thinks it's a prank. 2.5 weeks later, now you are sad. 3 weeks later, maybe it's time to move on. 1 month later, you attempt to die again. 1.5 months later, you head for your national library. 1.6 months later, you study ghost science. 2 months later, method 1, letting go. 2.4 months later, self-therapy. 2.6 months later, you visit your killer. 2.8 months later, you help him escape from prison. 3 months later, you're still here. Squeezing your eyes shut doesn't help. You're still on Earth. 3.2 months later, method 2, release attachment. 3.4 months later, you return to your family home. 3.5 months later, what is your most precious belonging? You destroy all material things that were important to you, clothes, photos, etc. For 3.5 months later, you destroy your PlayStation. Geez. 3.6 months later, you feel unmotivated. Method 3, find your body. 3.8 months later, the final method states that you must reunite with your body to pass on. So 3.9 months later, you're prowling the graveyard. You dig up your grave and open your casket. 4 months later, white light everywhere. You touch your body and a flash of bright light consumes you. It's finally over. So, yeah. What do you think lies beyond the white light? Comment below.
This video. If you enjoyed it, then make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on those notifications and check out some of our other stuff.
For sure. And that was a cool video. Thank you for watching and bye.